Thanks so much for staying with us here on News Talk. Bruce DePoit with you on this Friday. Time now for our Friday Focus on You. This time, work life and career. The workplace has always brought together a mix of generations. Now we're seeing the coming together of baby boomers with the millennials, and it's making for some interesting workplace dynamics. Mary Abijay is our work life and career guru. She's president of the Career Stone Group, with us every month at this time. Always great to have you.
Nice to be here,
Thanks
Bruce.
very much for coming in. When we're talking about the millennials, we're talking about what age range?
We're talking about people born approximately the early 80s, like 1980, 81, through 2000. So that's a very large cohort of 20 years. They also go by the same. They also go by the name of Generation Y or the Nexters. So they're the people who are about, late teens to maybe 30, 31.
So the youngest of the millennials aren't yet in the workplace.
They're not.
They're still in college.
We're about halfway through.
But if anyone works if anyone's a volunteer or an employee in an office, in a work setting, the youngest, and there are young adults there, these are the millennials, and they're bringing their generational traits, their personality influence into the office, and it's a fascinating thing to observe and to be part of. I know you're sort of, I don't want to say dealing with it because I don't want to make it sound like a problem, but it's an interesting aspect of work life now.
It's definitely changing organizational dynamics, and there's always been some generational friction, if you will, between generations. That's as old as like Socrates. But what we're seeing now is that with the new generation, and there's a lot of them, so we're about halfway through them. 40 million have already started hitting the workplace. We have another 40 million now. They are going to change the workplace just like the baby boomers did. And some of the things that we're seeing with them is that they were raised a little differently. So they bring their generational values to work, and those aren't necessarily the same values or the same ways that we have been working, those of us in the workplace. So we're seeing a little bit of friction and conflict around ideas, what it means to work and what a workplace needs to look like.
Can you talk about some of the things that have come up in conversation or as part of your consulting work?
Yeah, so one of the things that people, Gen Y gets a bad rap. Millennials, they get a bad rap, like, Time Magazine, the entitled generation, this and that. But one of the things, so let's talk about entitled. So one of the things is that people feel that Gen Y comes into work and they expect to be the president, and they expect to have like their voices heard and all of this. Well, while that may be true, what we fail to understand is that they're that way for a reason. So they grew up in what we call democratic family systems, where their parents actually cared about their opinion. Like they were asked, like, where should we go on vacation? What should we do here? What should we do there? And because they are the part of the fabric of every decision that they come to work, why wouldn't they think they should be part of every decision, right? So that's kind of the flip side of entitled. The other thing about Generation Y that we're seeing some friction in is they're very much about having portable careers. So they are not going to stay in an organization for 10, 20, 30 years like the baby boomers did. They're more likely to stay for a couple of years and then move on to another job.
Something better.
Something better, and so they're building their skills because they know that companies aren't hiring you for 30, 40 years anymore. So that sort of job jumping translates to being disloyal, but it's not disloyal. It's about understanding how to manage your career differently.
It's funny. I love the millennial generation. I think they bring a terrific sensibility with them. So I really like this generation. I know the knock is that they're in this entitlement piece or this entitlement concept, and I generally dismiss it when I hear it. But I will say, years and years and years and years ago, we had an intern. And of course he was interested in broadcasting, and he said, we were talking one day about career and what's next and where do you hope to go and all that, and he said, well, I'd like to report for a couple of years and then become an anchor. The kid's like 18,
like
right?
12, yeah.
He's like 12. and I started to say, oh, that's funny. That's the sort of clueless thing that a typical person would say. I thought he was doing shtick. And then, so I said, no, seriously, what? And he's like, no, I seriously was on a report for like 2 years, or maybe 6 months. I forget what it is.
Well, so,
and then he wants to be an anchor. And I'm like, dude, get a clue.
I know. See, they have an accelerated, that's so common. They have an accelerated time frame because in their world, things move faster because of technology, right? And they necessarily don't have the same sort of span of understanding the steps you need to get to. The other thing is, let's not forget, they're also part of what we call the quarterback generation, the trophy generation. They're used to having adults tell them that they're great, right? They get trophies for showing up, and they're used to having adults really pave the way for their success. So they come to the workplace and they think you're going to pave the way for their success. So it's really interesting. But one of the things I find most fascinating about this generation is the fact that they are what we call digital natives. So their ability to like do anything technological, right? We all think that they're all whizzes, right? Even when they don't know how to do anything. That gives them power in the workplace. So they're young people coming in, and when you came into work, you had no power when you were 22, right?
Right.
But they have power because they understand technology, and that can cause a little bit of friction for us older people.
Interesting. Let me open up the phone lines. If you have questions or comments about the issue we're discussing here on our Friday Focus on You with Mary Abbott, Millennials in the Workplace, do grab an open line. We'd love to get your stories, your questions, whatever they are. 703-387-1020 is the number here. If you have, and we're going to keep Mary for 2 segments, if you have a general job search question or whatever it is, anything that might be in Mary's wheelhouse, in our second block today, we're going to open up the phone line so you can get sort of career advice or broad office workplace advice from Mary in our second segment. Grab an open line, please. I would love to include your calls. 703-387-1020 is the number. So I was sort of doing some back-of-the-envelope math here. You've got these 2 generations that are sharing the work life together.
Well, don't forget Gen X, right
yes,
in the middle.
absolutely. Right,
I always forget this Gen X.
I know. Gen X. So the baby boomers are pushing. The oldest from the group are pushing. They're another huge generation, influential, wonderful, terrific people. I think every last one of them is fantastic.
The greatest generation.
Thank you. Yes. So the oldest of them are pushing 60, and the youngest are 50 this year.
Yeah.
So and you know, we were raised by literally the greatest generation.
Yeah.
I mean, we were raised by the generation that
work ethic, long hours, change the world, care about what you do.
Went overseas, saved the world, and then came back very humble, went to work. So I just think it's fascinating how the parenting styles, the generational influences, all of it makes for a really rich stew in the workplace.
It does, and a couple things about that. One is baby boomers have a very strong work ethic, and their work ethic is really about hours worked, really going in, your butt in that seat from 8 to like 7. Everyone stays till the boss leaves. Gen Y doesn't work like that. Gen Y thinks work can be portable. They can go anywhere. You know, they struggle sometimes to come in at 9:30, so that's a different kind of class. They do the work differently, but it clashes with baby boomers. And the other thing about baby boomers is that they're not leaving the workplace, right? So we call it a gray ceiling. And so that's causing a little bit of strife as well, because if they're here, there's nowhere else for people to move up. And so it is very interesting in watching how these play out. Thirdly, I would say this, because young people don't consider themselves adults, baby boomers consider themselves adults at the age of 18. When Pew Research asked young people, millennials, when they consider themselves adults, it's 32 years old.
Oh my word.
So we're seeing a little what we call adultolescence in the workplace. So they're still young, and they still feel someone needs to take care of them.
There's been way more parental involvement in university and in the workplace.
And in the workplace.
My mother was an HR, a high-level HR person back in the day, and she would have died if a parent had, unless it was an emergency, you know, my daughter's sick and in the hospital, whatever. Oh my God, take good luck and take care. But you know why hasn't Mary gotten a raise?
Oh, and they are.
My Mary is fantastic. My mother would have fallen over dead.
Parents are negotiating salaries. Parents are like calling HR people. There are some companies that actually invite parents when they're doing recruiting invite the parents for Parents' Day to recruit them. But it works if they know, like Goldman Sachs says, if they know that mom and dad are going to be involved in that job search, and they know they need to recruit mom and dad too.
Let's go to the phones. Novella in Northwest, line 1. Hello, you're on the air. Go right ahead, please.
But it works if they know, like Goldman Sachs says.
Hi, caller. Mute the TV if you would, and go right ahead with your question. We'll tell Novella to mute the TV and go ahead with your question in just a moment. Do bosses reach out to people like you to help bridge some of the understanding gap?
Yes.
Because the alternative is ignore it or just try to muscle your way through with probably not that much in terms of the skill set.
Yeah, you know, so we do a lot of this work. So we do anywhere from like giving a presentation just to raise awareness, because a lot of it is just being aware, to we'll have, like I did a 2-day session for a power company out west because they were having serious problems, and we just made them talk about it. It's just another form of diversity. You have to see it from other people's viewpoint. And it's fun, it's, you know, and it's pretty easy to resolve, but you have to really think about it. Now, some organizations have to really think about whether or not their organization organization is structured to attract millennials and retain them. So sometimes there's some hard work down the line once you like lance the boil of the friction to figure out what in our organization needs to change to keep millennials here and happy.
It's interesting because balance is something that most of us would agree is a good thing.
You have work-life balance?
Work-life balance. I mean, you have good career, but also friends and time for family and time for yourself. On paper, that all sounds great, but I know someone who works in a very high-stress, high-stakes work environment where the older folk, middle-aged and older folk, totally get that you stay until the work is done. It's not like 4:59, 5. And there's a culture clash from the stay until the work is done crowd versus the 5 o'clock, my friends are meeting for a beer and I said I would be there crowd.
That's a really big clash, and I would say this. There are some industries where that's absolutely essential, right? And if that's your industry, Generation Y needs to know that going in. But there are some organizations where that's just the culture and it doesn't really matter. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes we just do the busy work, stay busy, but that is something that young people and organizations really need to face.
We're going to continue calls in the next segment, but right now, though, let me get back to Novella. Line 1, you're on the air. Go ahead with your comment or your question, caller. Great to have you.
Yes, my name is Novella, and I love the Millennials. I love working with them. I try to work with them. My only comment is that they don't seem to take as much responsibility in their work as the older people did. But working with them is a real joy because they are interesting.
Why do you say, well, I'll give Mary a chance to answer your comment on your responsibility observation, but when you say the Millennials are a joy to work with, what comes to mind?
What comes to mind is that I think they're eager, and the technology that they know is just wonderful, as it has been stated. But they seem to lack the responsibility. They will just leave sometimes the job half done, incomplete, and that sort of bothers me.
Thanks for your call.
Yeah, Novella, I think you're right on. I agree. I love the Millennials, and we do what Novella's talking about. We hear that a lot, and I think part of the challenge with that is we as managers, like knowing that that's how some of them really are, and they truly are. It's about understanding how to delegate more clearly and effectively and give your expectations, because our generation didn't need to be told that. We knew that. You stayed till the job was done and you busted your butt. But this generation doesn't. So it really is the onus, unfortunately, is on the managers and the organization to be really clear about expectations and deadlines and what successful completed work looks like.
Communicate.
Yeah.
Mary, stand by for just a moment. Billy, stand by there on line 3. We'll take a break here. When we come back, though, more of our conversation with and your phone calls for Mary Abijay. Welcome back to News Talk. Bruce DePoit here. Mary Abijay across the desk. She's our career and workplace expert. It's our Friday Focus on You, focusing on work life and career. Phone lines open at 703-387-1020. If you have any kind of a question about the job search, work life, whatever it is, Mary's here several more minutes, and we're eager to take as many of your calls as possible. We'll go back to the phones in a moment. Billy, stand by. We'll take your call next. What you said a moment ago about, and I forget the term you used, but baby boomers, we dream about retirement, we think about it, but really we want to stay active and productive and working. So it's hard. It's starting to be hard for the Gen X and Gen Y people to have those advancement opportunities up the ladder, just the way when in real estate, when people don't move out of their starter home to a bigger home, it's hard for people to get out of an apartment and buy their first piece of real estate. It's an interesting issue, and it can cause friction when the young people say to the old people, "Could you move on, please? I would like your job."
Like, get off that cliff. They want their job. So if you're an organization and your boomers aren't leaving, and you want to keep your millennials and your Xers, you've got to find leadership opportunities for them within whatever structure you have. You have to develop them and grow them. Otherwise, they are going to leave.
And you don't have that continuity, and you don't have.
And then when the baby boomers do leave eventually, if you don't have that next level developed, you're done.
Line 3, Billy, hello. You're on the air. Thank you for your patience.
How you doing, Bruce?
Hi, caller.
Mary, did you get my email, Bruce?
I get so many. Remind me.
Well, I'm not going to go back in detail about that. Anyway, while I got you on here, I want to thank you and Mary for the job search. I got my new job.
Oh, congratulations.
Congratulations.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very good.
Can I ask you a question?
Of course.
It's a blockbuster. how can a person who sleeps on the job for 19 or 20 years stay on the staff?
It doesn't sound like it should happen unless you're part of a sleep study. I don't know how that.
Someone's sleeping on the
but
job.
We don't want to get into any kind of detail
right.
on the air, just 'cause I don't want to call anybody out. But I can't imagine.
He's physically sleeping on the job?
I guess.
Yes, he is.
Oh man, I think either I'm speechless, Billy. I think when managers are not holding people accountable, and if you're letting one employee get away with that, no matter how long they've been there, that is going to breed bad blood in the organization. So I don't know what kind of manager lets that happen. Maybe they're related, but it's not really a good idea.
And we're certainly not going to get into the detail here. 703.
Well, congratulations, Billy.
703-387-1020. We'll go back to the phones. Lewis, stand by. We'll pick up on line 1 in just a moment. I know that accountability can be difficult in some environments. I heard a story from a neighbor about a federal employee who just wasn't cutting it in the view of the supervisor, and out of frustration they moved the person's desk into the hallway. I mean, because they either couldn't document it or thought that the bandwidth that would be taken up trying to fight, and it's just like, get this person, I only want to work with them anymore.
And that's the challenge in the federal government. People are afraid to hold people accountable for all sorts of reasons, and they oftentimes just shift people around. They don't really solve the problem.
And you hate to think how much resource is being wasted in situations like that. Lewis, line 1, go ahead. You're on the air.
Yes, hi. Well, from what I've seen is that I guess working in government is that we're trying to kind of speed up and automate processes so that we can move up to the next level, and it's not really happening as I guess baby boomer generation doesn't see it like that. They kind of see it as we just don't want to work as hard or do as much work, but and also we also work more like in a postgraduate setting where we really are used to getting out of like work and really going home and doing more work at home, and that's probably a big reason as to why we're used to coming in a lot later.
The benefits and the challenge of managing the wired life. Thank you, Lewis.
But Lewis, you raised 2 excellent points. This is about how millennials work differently. Baby boomers don't trust you if they don't see you working there. A millennial who wants work-life balance, and many Gen Xers, will do work, then they will go home, do something, and then do more work, because they really understand that work isn't where you do it, it's what you do. And boomers are uncomfortable with teleworking, and they're uncomfortable with not being able to see you. So it is a thing. I think it's getting better, but Lewis is absolutely right.
Mary Adjay is a career and workplace expert. She's with us every month as part of our Friday Focus on You rotation. Great to see you as always. We look forward to next month. Have a great weekend.
See you next month.
Please put the work down and have an actual weekend.
I will.
You'll report back next time. We're back with a program note right after this.